Philippine National Police Maritime Group. So since the Bureau of Customs is already on board the task force, so whatever apprehension we make, it will always go directly to the Bureau of Customs, being the one given the sole authority when it comes to smuggling of illegal products and illegal agricultural products.
So, and yes.
Opo. Maganda po.
I think, sir, we're expecting additional regulatory powers on top of the existing ones because of the enforcement group nga po. So, how does that work with the additional jurisdiction?
Before this law, the one who has the sole authority to really trigger filing of cases is the Bureau of Customs. Even if the DA would have an operation leading to seizure of smuggled items, if without the signature of the customs commissioner, then that will be a fatal defect for purposes of instituting or initiating criminal cases. But now, because of this new law, it has become, meaning no longer just an authority given to the customs commissioner, but as mentioned, to other law enforcers and even to citizens, meaning citizen suit. And just to add up to the question relating to that matter, the DOJ has an existing witness protection program. So meaning if one of those who are in cohorts in doing agricultural smuggling covered by this law would also qualify to be a witness under that program, then the DOJ will accept them, and instead of filing cases against them, they will be utilized as a witness for the state or for the prosecution, if they so qualify according to the witness protection program. That is one way to incentivize even a private citizen who is now empowered to file criminal cases under this new law.
So what would you recommend then? For example, if an informer comes to the BIR related to smuggling, agricultural smuggling, should we refer it directly to the DOJ for a for a direct complaint? What would you prefer, sir?
The BIR is also part of this team or this law. So you could do preliminary examination as to the worth of the information to be shared by that particular party. So if that is worth prosecuting, then you can endorse to us.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
To the NBI, yes. Because under the rules of court, the law enforcers can initiate information, filing of a complaint.
Can I have some pointers? On the part of the NBI, even the Department of Agriculture, I think they endorse cases to the NBI and the PNP for case build-up. For on our part, we could only confiscate smuggled agricultural products with the use of search warrant. So during the service of the search warrant, what we usually do in order to hold possession of this is we call the NMIS if it's meat product, the BFAR if it's fishery, and the BPI if it's plant products. After this, we conduct a joint inventory of these items, and these agencies gives the releases a certificate that these goods are unfit for human consumption. Through this certificate, we return the inventory before the issuing court and ask that it be disposed according to what is suggested by the Department of Agriculture. So doon po sa mga recent operations po namin, yung mga nako-confiscate po namin, dinediretso na po namin yan sa court. And then we wait for the order of the court na sabihin sa amin na you bring it to a accredited rendering plant for destruction either by thermal incineration, ano po ba yun? Thermal incineration, ginigiling o kaya minsan hinuhukay. Pero dahil nga sa ito yung mga products na maaring mag-spread ng disease, what usually is suggested ay yung thermal incineration. So despite po dito sa ano, I think despite sa provisions ng law natin na there should be custody to the enforcement group, it does not preclude the order of the court na magbibigay sa mga agency na itong mga itong mga smuggled goods na to should be immediately destructed or destroyed.
We've been talking about the challenge of information sharing, no? But what about confidentiality and handling these sensitive information? How can the council protect and preserve its operational integrity, let's say, in terms of prosecutorial enforcement bodies? Sir Attorney, maybe Mas Pascasio.
DOJ is part of the council. So in working with council members, we have to abide by the operational guidelines on how to safekeep information. But relating this with the handling of operations relating to POGO, I think the IACAT, similar to the council here, if in IACAT that is for purposes of trafficking and POGO problems or concerns, we have the same mindset. The IACAT members and the council members here have the same mindset that even if we are comrades in the government service, but if we are not on the same team operating on a particular sensitive matter, then we ought not to share sensitive information to them. So I think that is that needs to need not be emphasized that much, but that is the operating procedure.
Anyone like to add from the DOF?
Um, so, since the law is really well new, on the part of the department, we have yet to come up with a specific policy on the confidentiality of document. And I think this is something that the council will have to agree on if there is a procedure that will have to be followed for the purpose of confidentiality. There are other councils that the Department of Finance is part of where we do require confidentiality and security declarations for the, keeping of documents and for the sharing of data. So that's something that can be considered as well when the council decides to convene for the particular law.
So let's talk about appointments. So we know Section 25 that the Congressional Oversight Committee on Anti-Agricultural Economic Sabotage is to conduct a mandatory review of the implementation of this act 3 years after its effectivity and every 3 years thereafter pa. So it's composed of 7 members of the Senate, the abandoned 7 members of the House of Representatives too. I suppose there have been no designated senators and congressmen yet. I think the Senate President, the House Speaker will have to decide on that since no council has not. Okay. And then as of the advisory board, sir, sa DA, diba, we have a representative from each of the following: sugar, rice, corn, livestock, poultry, vegetables, fruits, fisheries, and other aquatic products, and tobacco. No, so eto rin po ba wala pang list of representatives? Because I think the president will have to come up with this list although he will be given 3 nominees naman po submitted by the sector. Wala pa rin po, no?
So far, wala pa rin, ma'am. Yung, as I've said earlier, mag-emanate dito lahat doon sa council. Kasi siya yung magdadirect nung, kumbaga yung sequence. From the council, kikreate na yung ICSICOM and then secretariat gagawa ng rules of engagement in which lahat nung pinag-uusapan natin ngayon could become later on part of the rules of engagement na gagawin ng secretariat. So, it's good na na-discuss na natin ngayon kasi magiging talking points later on pag-formulate ng
Kapag nag-meet na po yung
ng
council.
rules of engagement. So basically ma'am, dun sa operationalization, talagang naghihintay lahat ng nasa baba na i-execute kung ano man yung maging guidance ng council. Pero naka-ready naman na lahat yung mga members ng council dun sa mga kumbaga expect nila na magiging task nila later.
Mhm. And we know po that the council is either chaired by the president or a designated permanent representative, no? So we will be expecting someone to be designated soon, tama po?
Yes.
To head the council para po maayos na ang lahat. Okay. Any last clarifications po from your answer?
Ma'am, just to be more specific on the question of handling of confidential matters, there are specific provisions of applicable laws. For this particular law, it's Section 13, and hand in hand with that is the existing Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act. Both laws penalize uh, uh, disclosure of vital information, confidential information. One thing also needing to be shared or to be highlighted is that particular portion of this new law regarding Section 19 in particular, regarding an express authorization to for the council to donate seized items, locally sourced agricultural and fishery products, a subject of hoarding, profiteering, and cartel. They may be donated by the council to the DSWD or to the LGU. This is a new provision because unlike meaning prior to this law, that had been a question of how to, meaning what will happen to tons of seized like onions or agri products. Will they be just be allowed to rot because of the legal proceedings? Now there's also that somehow concept of chain of custody, which is more relevant in handling of prosecution of illegal drugs. Somehow they have patterned that concept of chain of custody in the handling of agri-smuggling. From the time of seizure, there must be proper accounting, there must be proper recording, even video recording, and inspection by the court after a number of days. Then eventually, if formerly those seized items should await disposition after the termination of the criminal case. Now, because of this express provision of law, the council itself is allowed to donate those seized items to the LGUs or the DSWD without prejudice to the continuation of the legal proceeding. Thank you.
Sir, how does the council decide as a whole then? Will there be voting of the sort? There's a quorum, right? And, I think it says there at least 1/3 of the number of the council members need to be present to make a decision, right? Okay. Mhm. All right, so maybe we can hear one last time from each of our panelists about their individual action plans and how it can align better with the broader goals of the AGES law. Let's start with BIR, Ma'am Mondragon, attorney. Nagkakape pa pala si Ma'am.
Just to comment a while ago, on what Sir Pascasio said, the role of the BIR is not really stated. We're not in the council, we're not in the enforcement group, so we don't know where we should be in terms of investigation. That's why I asked, because what if we, discover or get hold of information? Do we need deputation? Do we need go signal from the council for, for a letter of authority to inspect? I guess that's another clarification that we need, because right now we're not part of the council, we're not part of the enforcement group. So I just want to.
So the Department of Finance is part of both the council and the enforcement group. And one function of the council is actually to deputize agencies as well to act on their behalf. On the part of the Department of Finance, we actually have two regulating agencies with the power to inspect and proceed in smuggled goods, especially for BAR, it's the excisable products. For BOC, it's a wider grant of authority for searches. I think the Department of Finance is will definitely be tapping the two bureaus in the performance of its function. We are looking forward to the council meeting in the future, and for the drafting as well of the rules of engagement for the implementation of this particular law.
Well, for the NBI, since this is a new law, we are still under the nandun pa kami sa stage ng discussion. Although itong laman naman ito in spirit is very similar dun sa old law na ginagamit namin. Kami naman sa NBI, we only make sure na kung may bago tayong batas, we could implement it properly. And we could file proper charges. Tulad nga po sabi ni ASEC, meron naman na pong DC-20, so it has been very effective when it comes to the file of cases ng NBI. And we are hoping to get higher rate of prosecution dahil po dito sa collaborative effort ng DOJ at saka ng mga law enforcement agency, between DOJ and law enforcement agency. Thank you.
For Department of Agriculture, we notice we're not part of the enforcement group, and and we have this FSRAs, the Food Safety Regulatory Authorities. You have the BFAR, BPI, you have the NMIS, but we cannot. We don't have the authority to execute whatever we want. We are working on it. We have several recommended remedies for it, so that we can see to it that the requirements of the law will be implemented in accordance with what the government or the objectives of the government. So, yun yung malaking ano namin dito, yung nakita namin. Wala kami kasing enforcement power dito sa batas na to eh. Although sinasabi natin na agricultural economic sabotage na ang first impression CDA yung ano. So far wala pa naman tayong reference na paano namin i-execute na maayos. So we have recommendations already. Last week we attended the Quintacom in Congress. Na-notice din nila yon. So siguro matulungan nila yung DA na ma-improve yung execution on the part of the DA po. Thank you.
Thank you so much. On the part of the Philippine Coast Guard, being a member of the enforcement group, we will continue to enhance the capacity and capability of our assets and personnel on how to effectively enforce this law. And we will continue to cooperate and collaborate with our respective agencies under the group. The NBI, the Philippine National Police, and the Department of Finance to have to come up with how to effectively and efficiently enforce what is stipulated under the law. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, ma'am. On the part of the Philippine National Police, as a member of the law enforcement team, we will see to it that we shall be implementing our job in accordance with the policies and provisions of this with this enacted law, and in the course of enforcement, we will see to it that all things shall be documented, so that at the end of the day, in the prosecution phase or in the filing of cases, it will not create any defect or whatsoever. And secondly, rest assured that in the performance of our duty, we will make sure that we will be observing the preservation of life, so to speak, on our line, on our personnel, because we do believe that, as they say, one casualty is too many. That's all, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of the Justice Secretary, Jesus Crispin Remulla, and our Oversight Undersecretary for Law Enforcement, Hermogenes Jesse Andres, we thank the organizers of this event. As mentioned by Ma'am Nikki, this actually not only preempted but also prepared all of us to that expected first meeting of the council under this newly created law. But that notwithstanding, since we have already met in this pre-meeting, then with us are all notes worthy to be shared also and to be followed through by respective agencies. For the DOJ, and this has been our constant motto, meaning not just a motto that is to be uttered at the end of a particular event, but our own commitment. We commit to deliver real justice in real time. Maraming salamat po sa inyo lahat.
Before we formally close our panel discussion, would anyone from the audience like to direct a question to any one of our panelists? All right. Sir, maybe you could go first.
Hello, good morning. I'm Eugene Texon from National Security Council. First of all, I'd like to thank Strat-Based Group for inviting us to this panel discussion. My question can be addressed by anyone. Actually, I have a couple of questions, not just one, but I'll be brief with it. My first question is regarding the policy that we have now. Did we take into consideration practices of other countries insofar as addressing anti-smuggling, anti-economic sabotage? For example, from what I've gathered, because I do studies for NSC regarding agricultural smuggling. For instance, in Singapore and in Indonesia, what they do in the inspection of imports, the procedure is those inspecting on anything related to agriculture, on economic sabotage would come in first rather than their authorities with respect to customs. Are we doing the same? Based on studies, it is the better procedure rather than the customs coming in first. So that is my first question. I'm glad that the law has this national single window, as explained by our guest from Department of Finance, because I think Indonesia is has also been doing it. And it will address transparency with respect to the concerns that we have. My second question is related to, I know that in the law we already have provision on special prosecutors, but Senator Villar, and then I also know that in the law we have a provision on, I think it's the Court of Tax Appeals, who would hear all the cases related to this. does it mean that the other bill by Senator Cynthia Villar is no longer necessary? I'm talking about Senate Bill 1963. It talks about the establishment of special courts on agricultural smuggling. Given that it's the Court of Tax Appeal that would hear these cases. And then I just like to comment that our guest from PNP, Police Brigadier General Obnica, I'm glad that you mentioned that agricultural economic sabotage is a national security issue, sir. Actually, there's a long way to go for us to address all these issues. One is that we do not have a Biosecurity Act. We have fragmented policies with regard to biosecurity, but we do not have a comprehensive Biosecurity Act in the Philippines, like that of, for instance, in Australia. I'm also interested in knowing more about first border inspection facility in the Philippines, if we've already started implementing it, because it is also crucial insofar as our border security is concerned. So those are my questions. Thank you.
The DOF can comment on sir's questions.
On the first question on the which comes first, is it the lodgement or the inspection by the regulatory agency? I think current process is it's the because inspection happens after the lodgement with the Bureau of Customs. So definitely it's the customs declaration that will happen before the inspection of the regulatory agency like the DA. On the second question, on the NSW, so yes, other countries have also their own national single window, and the national single window of the Philippines will also be connected to those national single window, which allows us to also verify the information which they relayed to us. So it's a means for us to verify information. So we're looking forward to having our national single window up and running by hopefully next year.
Attorney Pascasio, maybe you could help us clarify the question on the jurisdiction of the Court of Tax Appeals.
Currently, the one that has jurisdiction over cases filed against this law is the CTA and no one else. But Congress in future legislation is not precluded from amending this law and creating, if like Senator Villar wants, and if the Supreme Court will also support it, the creation of special courts for agri cases. Okay, so meaning it is the CTA without prejudice to future legislation. And again, as just to clarify, the citizen suit is to be attended to directly by the DOJ. So even if preliminary, the agency like the BIR could examine the completeness, at least, of the documents or the information needed, but ultimately, a citizen's suit should be catered and processed by the Department of Justice. Thank you.
Next question, please. Sir in blue, may tanong po ba kayo? Ay.
I would like to make a comment on the question of our guest from our NSC representative. In cases of reported pandemics in some countries of origin under the Food Safety Act of 2013, it should be the DA first to determine if there are contaminants together with the DOH. If processed foods, the DOH is in charge of the examination or determining if there are contaminants. And in the case of agri-products, it should be the DA. We have the PSRAs, the NMIS, we have the BFAR. before the customs would come in. So that's under the Food Safety Act of 2013. And we do that when there are cases of uh, diseases coming from countries of origin. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now, let's first welcome the question by the lady in red. Okay. Do we have a microphone there?
Before I ask question, I'd like to comment on the first border facilities. I think Senator Cynthia Villar has ensured a budget for 2025 for three first border facilities in the country. I think in Bulacan, Cebu, and in Davao, if I'm not mistaken. So for my question, this is for Attorney Emmy Macabales. Under Section 7A of the law, it stipulates there that the national single window shall be fully implemented within 90 days. However, based on your earlier statement, ma'am, you mentioned that the NSW will be fully operational by end of 2025. So my question is the delay on the full implementation of this NSW will be considered an administrative violation or non-compliance with the legal deadline? And second question is on the budget, on the appropriations under Section 26. Is there anyone who have knowledge on the appropriations if this has been included in the 2025 budget? Because I think this is very crucial for the implementation of the law. Thank you.
So on the NSW question, so there's already an existing NSW for the Philippines. It's called TradeNet. I can't remember exactly when it was first launched, but the system is online and are able to issue certificates of origin, among others. And I understand certain trade regulatory agencies are also able to issue their permits for importation on that particular website. So the NSW that I'm talking about is a more robust one. So in addition to the permitting that is being handled by the TradeNet system right now, this new NSW will also allow for the declarations to be lodged in this particular system. It will also allow that manifest be lodged in this new particular system. So it will expand the capacity of the existing NSW. So we're looking forward to having that system in place soon. On the budget, I'm not sure.
500 million.
So the budget is supposed to be under the office of the president. So I personally have not seen the budget allocation for the office of the president. So unless po meron others sa panel, I don't think na meron right now in the panel who can answer the question on the budget.
Yes, I think this is very crucial because 60% of that allocation would go to the council and the enforcement group. 30% would go for the DOJ, and 10% will go to DA and BAR for the daily price index establishment and maintenance. Thank you.
We open the floor to one more question from sir. Okay.
I am Mr. Oplas. I am a columnist in Business World and Philippine Star. In one of my column, I suggested that because of the degree of smuggling, in especially in tobacco. For instance, if you look at the revenue from income tax rising, value-added tax rising, documentary stamp tax, alcohol tax, sugar tax, all rising except tobacco tax. So 176 billion in 2021, 160 billion in 2022, 135 billion 2023, and I think this year about 122 billion. So it keeps declining. So the problem is really in tobacco taxation. And I think I suggested that the lead agencies should suffer some fiscal, fiscal penalty, like a deduction of their budget whenever the lead agency, and I think I particularly mentioned Coast Guard, PNP, NBI, and Customs. But although I think that it's not acceptable to you, so my question is, what would be an acceptable or what a compromise sort of fiscal penalty, given that the enforcement of tobacco taxation is very, I think is very lacking, no? What would be some form of compromise? Something like that. So first question. Second question, I think that some of the smugglers are LGUs, mga gobernur, no, mayor. So I think that ilag din kayo yung mga lead enforcement agencies. But what would be a compromise, no? Or maybe congressmen siguro. And and medyo ilag kasi you get ask budget from Congress, tapos you tag them as the smugglers, di ba? What would be the compromise, compromise measure in situations like that? Thank you.
One from our panelists who would like to weigh in on that. Maybe from PNP.
Thank you very much. Very nice question and very realistic. I just would like to share, in my experience, I personally visited the Zamboanga Peninsula, as I have said in my speech, particularly the provinces of Sulu, Tawi-Tawi, and Basilan. If you will notice, especially in Sulu and Tawi-Tawi, yung mga tao po doon, ang kanilang sinisigarilyo, ini-smoke, wala pong made in the Philippines. Almost made in the nearby provinces. Pag mayroon kang makita sa kanila na kumakain ng noodles, wala ka pong makikita doon na Lucky Me. Again, made in other nearby provinces. Pag mayroon kang makita doon na umiinom ng kape sa umaga, wala ka rin makikita or very seldom na makita mo ang iniinom niyang kape ay Nescafe or Great Taste or whatsoever. Again, coming from nearby provinces, country sa lugar na yon. So, on the part of our law enforcement agency doon, we have a meeting with the regional director of Region 9 at saka sa BARM. Because sabi po ng ating kaibigan kanina, most of the smugglers are the local government executives themselves. But in our meeting on discussion with the regional directors of Region 9 and Region BARM, at this point in time, talaga pong doon po kasi ang entry, first border entry ng ating country pagdating sa smuggling. So, with regards to compromise, wala po kaming tinutumbok ngayon na compromise. Basta kung sino man ang mahuli na nagpaparating ng smuggled goods, at yun po ay aming tatrabahuin. Yun po ang karamihan doon na effort ng Region 9 at saka Region BARM ngayon. Kaya kung mapansin nyo, ma'am, yung accomplishment po ng ating kapulisan doon sa region na yun ay talagang on the ascending trend. As I have said earlier, almost 3 billion na po ang effort ng ating PNP doon sa lugar na yun. Thank you very much.
Hi, sir. You mentioned like coastal places, right? But have you ever considered PEZA, the zones where there are manufacturers of cigarettes or tobacco, and do we have people there ensuring that, or inspecting whether they're smuggling also? Or sa mga ano lang, coast?
We have also people in the PESA area. Pero yung sa amin kasi more on ano lang kami yung inspection, at kung may information report that something is happening in that particular place. Yun po, ma'am.
Kasi sir, normally, like there is also parang or yung mga sari-sari store beside the Pezas, yung nagbebenta din ng mga international brands, not just the local brands. So just a comment.
The NBI would like to add anything? Sa issue nga po na
We're just the same with the PNP. Kung ano po yung stand ng PNP, we cannot make compromises kasi nga po, illegal activity to. So whatever, kung ano po yung tatamaan during the course of our investigation, yun po ang fina-file namin. So yung mga haka-haka po natin na meron po involved na governor, LGU, executive officers of the LGU, unless there is proof na makakapagsabi na talagang involved sila, then that's the time we file a case. Kung ano po yung tutumbukin na investigation, yun po ang paninindigan namin. So, yun lang po.
mga sir, ano po bang biggest challenges faced by the enforcement group, particularly PNP, PCG, and NBI? This is a question from our viewers po online. So, pagdating po sa identifying, intercepting illegal activities and products being smuggled into the country. Maybe we can hear from PCG first, sir.
Thank you so much for that very nice question, as what my good friend mentioned. On the part of the Philippine Coast Guard, if we will analyze why this is happening, it boils down because it's cheaper to get goods from the neighboring provinces, what was mentioned by General Ubinke, than from shipping it out from Manila to Sulu. It will be more expensive. So that's why they are forced to smuggle in goods. That's why, but with the strict enforcement that the PNP, the PCG, and the NBI and the Navy are doing, it is somehow now minimized, if not, but I cannot be assured that we cannot be assured that it will be totally eradicated. However, if government will devise rules or laws on how to regulate the coming in of these goods, maybe, because I believe there is already the Tariff Act on for goods that will be coming in from the neighboring countries, the Zero Tariff Acts, that will be excluding rice, oil and petroleum. I think there is when I was with then our former commandant, he presented a very thick book on list of duty-free goods that will be coming in from other countries. It will be shared between the both countries and import to enhance to encourage import and export, because before they consider this as barter. That's why they barter trade. They just trade in goods and minimize the taxes coming in. So if only we could, the government could find ways on how to, because we could not fully stop. So maybe we could do some regulations on how to maybe lower down the tax coming in, so that the goods that will be coming in from the other side will be more affordable by the occupants in Hulu, Tawi-Tawi, Basilan. I have been to Hulu recently, way back just this August, and I have seen great changes in Hulu. It's not the Hulu that I have seen when I was a young ensign. I was assigned there before, way back 1992 and 96. Before in Hulu, you could not go out at when nighttime falls. You should stay in. For me, I stay in my boat. But for now, I went there last August. there is already some sort of nightlife already. We went around Hulu about 12 o'clock in the evening. There are still a lot of cars roaming around the place. So it means that the security situation in Hulu is has greatly improved, and tourism activity is slowly flowing in to that part of the country. And I do hope that if tourists will continue coming in, and with the low price of food that you could buy there, I treated I have 15 in my group. We had snacks in one of their restaurants, and I paid only about 500 pesos for 15, and it was a choose all you can delicacy of with coffee, and I just paid 500. So if we could maintain that kind of practice in that area where food will be cheap and affordable to all, and economic infra development will also come in to create new economies. I presume that this part of the country, which we consider as no man's land before, will be a tourist destination later on. If you have not been to Hulu, it's one of the best places I have been. The pristine beach,
And
beautiful than Boracay. It's a really a perfect tourist destination.
big words, sir.
Yeah, it's I do hope we will have that. We will correct our mindset, our stereotyping of Hulu, Basilan, Tawi-Tawi of the Barm area, because they are now places for tourists. As what the former chief of staff of the Philippines, General Subiana, mentioned, from terrorism to tourism. They converted Hulu from terrorism to tourism. So I do hope that we will try visiting that part of the country, so that we will also be informed on the real situation underground there.
And
Thank you so
sir,
much.
jumping off from that, no, we have another question connected to the PCG. So how do you work with neighboring countries' maritime authorities also to address the cross-border smuggling of agricultural products?
We have bilateral agreements with Malaysia and Indonesia. So we have joint joint operations with them, and we are closely coordinating with them. We also have the head of Asian Coast Guard agencies meeting, which is conducted on a regular basis, and that forum also serves as a venue to voice out any concerns that is happening within the region. So yes, we have a very good coordination with the Coast Guard in Malaysia and that of Indonesia.
Before we end, again, let's go back to PNP and NBI about the biggest challenges in identifying and intercepting
thank you
such
ve-
illegal.
Yeah, thank you very much. On the part of the PNP as a law enforcement, in our job as in enforcing the law, wala pong problema yun, ma'am, dahil naka-in place na po yan. Yung sa pagbigay naman ng tax, nasa batas din po yan, ma'am, eh. So ang nakikita ko po na one of the challenge na na-encounter namin is yung pag-educate doon sa mga countrymen natin doon sa lugar ng where smuggling is very rampant, on educating them on not to patronize itong mga smuggled items, but with emphasis, this is easier than done. Oh, hindi po basta-basta yan, ma'am. Kasi tulad po nung pinag-uusapan po natin sa Zamboanga Peninsula, nakapunta rin po ako doon, ma'am. Kaya ako nasasabi ito dahil ramdam ko yung sitwasyon po doon. These commodities po are basic necessities sa existence ng ating food commodities, sa mga may bisyo, yung mga tobacco products, naging part ng buhay na nila yun. At yung pinanggagalingan niya outside our country is a very comfort zone and very comfortable on their part na doon na sila bibili kaysa sa pupunta pa sila sa mainland. But then, the factor here is, our country is an archipelagic country. Isla-isla po kasi yan yung lugar na yan. So, if we will continue and aggressively educate yung mga tao po natin sa mga baba na not to patronize these items, siguro kahit paano makakatulong sa pagsugpo ng smuggling sa ating bansa. Thank you very much.
NBI.
Well, the problem with the battle against agricultural smuggling is that yung mga kababayan natin, they choose to be mute and deaf when it comes to these kind of issues. Yung mga ganitong klaseng problema kasi, it does not present themselves on its own. So, nandyan na yan sa harapan natin, pero hindi pa rin natin alam na nangyayari. As law enforcers, lalo na yung agency namin, the NBI, which is, I think as of now, comprised only of less than 800 investigators. We need a lot of help from the public who could be the eyes and the ears in combating criminal activity. Most of our successful operations, most of the successful cases that we filed came from reports of anonymous tipsters, anonymous concerned public citizens. So we are urging the public to help us in this battle by being our eyes and ears. Malaking tulong na po yung makapag-report ng isang information na pwede namin i-process and i-validate. Nang sa ganun po, magkaroon po kami ng starting point kung saan po kami mag-uumpisa sa aming mga investigation. Yun lang po.
One from our panel who would like to add on the biggest issues when it comes to the illegal practices happening in the country and pinakamahirap pong mga pinagdadaanan natin sa pagharang ng mga yon. Maybe we can hear from DOF first.
So with the Department of Finance, we have the Bureau of Customs who's enforcing the Customs Modernization Act. And I think I mentioned earlier that in terms of the revenue loss that we get because of the smuggled goods, in the span of 9 years, it's amounted to about already 15 billion. So this is an area of concern for us kasi nagkakaroon ng revenue leakage for the government. Revenue that is better spent sana on our infrastructure or on our social services. So we would want the law to be properly implemented and to close that particular revenue leakage.
From the BIR? Okay, all right. From the DA?
On behalf of the Department of Agriculture under Secretary Laurel, we continuously intensify our effort in monitoring illegal importations because our concern is actually on the food safety. So we have our food safety regulatory authorities. So we conduct regularly and we conduct first border and second border inspections wherein nakikita natin yung mga illegally imported commodities. So marami na tayong nahuli dyan and tuloy lang yung ginagawa natin. With this new law, we hope na madagdagan yung natin, yung capability natin, yung power natin para lalo nating ma-execute na maganda yung gusto mangyari ng President. Thank you.
Let's hear last from the DOJ.
I think we have to give credit where credit is due. The passage of this law is a concrete act not only by the executive because this bill was proposed by the executive, but by the legislative too. That the solution to the problem of agri-smuggling, now considered as an economic sabotage, is a whole of nation concern. And for purposes of the government, the answer to the question of what is the main obstacle to implementing or addressing agri-smuggling is the silo mentality of each and every implementing agency. We have our own tasks to do, but if we consider just doing our own tasks, not in relation to other roles of other government agencies, then we are probably, not just probably, but we are definitely just partially resolving the problem. So what is in front of us is this mammoth problem of economic sabotage through agricultural smuggling, and the law now mandates all the agencies concerned to act as one, headed by the president through the council, and once and for all to tackle this national menace. Thank you.
Right, we end our panel discussion with that. Again, we'd like to thank our esteemed panelists, representatives from DOJ, from PNP, from PCG, DA, DOF, NBI, and BIR. We know that while the Aegis Law is a critical piece of legislation, its success, of course, will ultimately depend on the effective enforcement and interagency collaboration. So let's stand resolute in this commitment together. Here's to protecting our farmers, our fishermen, strengthening resilience for food security, and to combating and ultimately eradicating agricultural economic sabotage. On behalf of Strat-based ADR Institute, thank you again for your time, everyone, to those who joined us via Zoom, via Facebook, and here in the venue. It's been an informative and productive morning. Again, I'm Nikki De Guzman of TV5's Frontline Pilipinas Weekend, and we wish you all a great day ahead. Thank you. Food is also available outside for everyone, but for the speakers, please stay here. We'll be having a series of photo shoots. Okay. And then we'll also be serving food here. Thank you. Quick photo lang po.
Pwedeng photo rin with Miss Nikki.